Okay, this is our lesson about adding and subtracting linear equations. A linear equation is an algebraic expression in which the exponent of the variable is 1. So here they're giving us some examples of linear equations. So let me explain a little bit further about that definition. So when we talk about a variable, remember that is going to be a letter that is representing a number. And exponents, remember, are those little tiny numbers. So anytime we see something like this, negative 4x, so our x is our variable, when there's not a number on that letter with an exponent, it means that it's a 1. So this has an exponent of 1. Just like this, 3x is really 3x to the first power. If you had 9 to the first power, that would be 9 times itself just once, which would equal 9. Okay, so examples of when looking at an equation of linear equations, meaning they're going to create a line. As we move further into math, you're going to learn that linear expressions, actually once you work on graphing, they are going to create a line. Notice linear has the word line in it. So these top three are all examples of linear expressions. Notice each of the exponents does not have, each of the variables does not have an exponent. The bottom three are showing us nonlinear expressions. If we were to graph any of these as we get older, they're not going to create a perfectly straight line. They'll give us a different figure. So notice all we're looking at is that exponent is on a variable is no longer a 1. So here we have an exponent of a 3. Yes, there's one here that has just an x, but that has an exponent of a 3. Here we have an exponent of 5, which eliminates those from being linear. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and work today with adding linear expressions. So it's going to tie into just the same things that we were working in the previous section. We're going to be working on combining like terms, but what they've done in this section to advance what we've done is they've kind of put these in a parenthesis. Okay, so we're going to have to understand that really, if I were to write this out, as long as there's a plus sign here and no number on the outside of this parenthesis here, or this one here, we can really think of it as this, x minus 2 plus 3x plus 8. So that's really nothing more than what we did previously, but we're going to extend on that a little bit today. So I do want to go over that there are really two different methods that you can use for adding and subtracting linear expressions. The vertical method is where you're going to line them up one on top of the other, kind of like you're used to doing with a standard addition. Like if you had 25 plus 13, you would maybe line it up like this, 25 plus 13 vertically. Okay, so that's kind of what we're going to do. Now, you're going to decide for yourself which of these two methods you would prefer. Okay, I personally prefer the horizontal method, but I'm visual and can kind of pick things out. I'm also good with adding or combining integers without having to see them one on top of the other. So if I look at this, I'm going to go ahead and mark my like terms. So I have an x minus 2. And then when you use the vertical method, you have to make sure that you line up like terms. So this and this have to be underneath or on top of each other. So I've got a 3x. And then this was plus 8. So plus 8. Notice I put my constants right here, one under the other. Okay, I could also, because I'm doing addition, I could go through and rearrange this. I could have had my 3x on top, plus 8, and my x minus 2. Now, when it's just an x, you have to understand that you have to infer that that's really a 1 in front of that. So if that makes it easier for you to look at, then you can go ahead and do that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and combine, and I will work both of them to show you that we're going to get the same answer either way. So I have to be comfortable with integers. Okay, so I have a negative 2 plus 8. Well, different signs, find the difference, which is going to be 6, and that was positive. I need to remember that if it's positive, now that I'm in an expression and I have more than one term, I have to include that positive sign in front of a positive number, unless it happens to be the very front number. Okay, so here I've got 1 and a positive 3, so 1 plus 3 gives me 4, and I'm just going to go ahead and put my x. So I got 4x plus 6. Now, that could also be written out as 6 plus 4x had I had them rearranged, but I chose to keep them in the same order that they were stated in the original expression. Okay, so if I look down at the bottom one, same thing, but all I did was I kind of flip-flopped my numbers or my sets of terms. So I'm going to go ahead and combine these. I have a positive 8 and a minus 2, so 8 minus 2 gives me 6, and it was positive, was bigger. And then 3 and 1, both are positive, so 3 plus 1 gives me 4. With an x, notice we got the same answer either way. Okay, so that's using the vertical method. I personally don't like it because I don't like to have to rewrite, but some of you are going to prefer that because you want to see everything lined up, okay? I like the horizontal method. So when I go through and I use the horizontal method, okay, kind of like I've done in previous sections, is I go ahead and simplify. So I'm going to rewrite what I had written that I just erased over here. So I have x minus 2 plus 3x plus 8. Okay, so one thing that you can do with the horizontal method is you can put your like terms next to each other. So I'm going to mark those really quick because I'm visual. So the better you get at these, there are some steps that you can save. So I use boxes to kind of visually show you what ones have the same term. Remember when you're doing this to include the symbol that is in front of that number. Okay, because if you don't and it happens to be a negative sign in front of that number, it's going to throw your answer off. So when you're first starting out, it's probably best for you to go ahead and rearrange or use commutative property to put those like terms next to each other in the equation. So I've got 1x and a plus 3x. Okay, then I had my minus 2 and my plus 8. So I could put those in any order. I'm going to go ahead and just leave them in the order that they are, negative 2 plus 8. Okay, so now you can visually see my two terms are in different colors. So I'm going to go ahead and combine them. So 1x plus 3x, so 1 plus 3 is 4x. And then remember, this has to be included with my 2. So it's a negative 2 plus 8. Those are different symbols. Find the difference, which is 6. The larger number was positive. Take note, we got the exact same answer. Okay, you have to decide what you're most comfortable with. If you like the vertical method, then you're going to practice that method. If you prefer the horizontal method, then I want you to practice this method. By no means do you have to do both of them. Okay, I will for this next one, and then from there on out, I'm going to go ahead and do the horizontal method. But if you like the vertical method, you are more than welcome to use that one. Okay, so let's go ahead and try another one of these. All right, so we have 13z minus 4 plus 2z plus 5. So I'm going to go ahead and do the vertical method. So 13z minus 4. So I just copy that down. Now I'm going to copy the next one and making sure that like terms are underneath of each other. And it just so happens that they have it written that way, but had they written this as 5 plus 2z, I would have to make sure that this 2z showed up under my 13 over here. Okay, and then I have plus 5. Alrighty. Now, vertical method, like terms are already matched up. So I'm going to go ahead and get an answer for that part. So negative 4 plus 5 gives me a positive 1. Put my positive sign in there because now there's more than one term. 13z and a positive 2z, so plus 2z gives me 15 with a z. Final answer. Okay, horizontal method. I'm going to go ahead and reorganize these. I'm very visual, so I like to mark them. And that's a positive sign with that. So it's really a positive 2z. So 13z plus 2z. And then for my just constants, I had a negative 4 and a positive 5. Alrighty then. So if we go ahead and combine these, I get 13 plus 2 is 15z. And then negative 4 plus 5 gives me a plus 1 or a positive 1. We got the same answer either way. Okay, the further I get into these, I myself don't no longer need to go through and set them up in order next to each other using commutative property. I tend to mark using different symbols. So like I might box around one set of terms and then underline a different set or circle the other set, just so that visually I can see what I need to be combining. Most important part, make sure you include the symbol in front of the number, because that's a very common mistake. All right, let's try another one. Okay. So on this one, I'll kind of show you what I do with my visual technique. Here I've got Y's, and I used this on a previous lesson also. And then I've got +3. Actually, I'll circle these. And that plus sign goes with the Y. So we should have boxed around that. If it's a plus sign, it's not going to affect it. If it's a minus sign, it affects it a lot. Okay, so I'm noticing, without having to rearrange these, those two to go together. So I have a -4 and an 11Y. Those are different symbols, so I'm going to subtract. Doesn't matter the order. So in my head, this is what I'm doing, 11Y minus 4Y. That's what I'm doing in my head. So when I do that, 11 minus 4 gives me 7Y. Okay, so notice in my head, I am doing the commutative property. I just don't necessarily rewrite it, but I'm doing that in my head. And then for my red circles, I've got a +3 minus 5. So I'm thinking -5 plus 3, different symbols find the difference, which is 2. The larger number had a negative sign in front of it, so it would be -2. So final answer would be 7Y minus 2. If you want to see the vertical method, 4Y plus 3. Take note, I'm taking each of these sets and writing one under the other. And then we've got 11Y minus 5. And for some of you, visually, this might be easier for you to see that vertical method. Okay, we're going to put those together. I have a +3 and a -5. Those are different signs. Find the difference, which is 2. Larger number was negative. Here I've got a +4 and a +11. We're going to go ahead and add them because they're the same. So 4, plus 11 gives me 15 with my Y. Notice I got the same answer. No, I didn't. What did I do wrong? Oh, I forgot to bring my negative sign onto my 4. I'm like, how did I get different answers? So take note. See, Mrs. Swanson even goes through and makes mistakes sometimes. Make sure you're including, I forgot to take that negative sign with the 4. Okay, so -4 plus 7 gives me that 7Y, and I had a -2 here. Now we have the same answer. Okay, so that's working both of those methods. So I'm going to slide one out here, and I want you guys to try it. Okay, go ahead and try this one. Pause your video and then check back. I will go ahead and put both methods up on the board for you. So go ahead, try one method. You do not have to do both. Try one of the methods and then check back to check your answer. So you should have ended up with 8M plus 3 for your final answer. Once again, you need to decide what method you prefer. As you get better and better at these, you're going to be able to kind of save yourself some of those steps, and you'll find techniques that work for you. Good luck with this part of the lesson.